Welcome back to the Health Like You Mean. I'm Dr. Dan with Dr. Pascal. So today we want to address a question that I was specifically asked by a patient to cover.
Nice.
And that is it really worth it to get a stand-up desk?
Okay.
And our answer is yes. Now, the current, I guess, reality of things is that the majority of people are still working from home. Some have made some modifications to have a better at-home workstation. But the reality is now, even post-COVID, that a lot of businesses are still going to allow their employees to work from home.
Yeah.
So now the question becomes, okay, so what can I do to have a better workstation at home? And by far, for us, is to get a stand-up desk.
And you know, we shouldn't say only at home. Even people that are still working in the office.
True.
Like we could still say that all of this is going to apply if you work in the office. We've had a lot of patients come to us and ask us to write, requisition letters or help them, request ergonomic assessments so they can get stand-up desks at work. So this is possible that your company might be forward-thinking and they might understand the health benefits of everything we're talking about too. So, don't negate it if you're still in the office, but we're really focusing on obviously how COVID has impacted the way people are working and what's going on at home and some of the side effects, or I guess the effects of what we've seen.
And we've seen it, very, very clearly, because now it's almost coming up to a year since, we've kind of had this shift because of COVID. And now as we're retaking postures and retaking x-rays, we've really noticed a change in people's overall posture because of the fact that, one of them definitely is their work set up at home, much more sedentary than people have ever been, with gyms not being open. It's the environment is not conducive for people to get out and do things, and being very conscious of their posture. So that's kind of taking a nosedive. So what could help people, especially in this environment, to maintain their posture, feel better? Because a lot of people are coming in going, Doc, I'm more stiff, I'm more sore, getting more headaches. Kind of what's kind of going on?
Right. So we talked about a number of other things outside of just your workstation, in terms of habits, routines, exercise, and all the things that you can do at home to keep moving and try and ward off the effects of the sedentary living that is a result of what's happening with COVID. But one of the main things I think we can all do is improve our workstation. So now we know, especially you're still going to be working at home for a while, we got to get into a better ergonomic position so that this is not going to wreak havoc on you for the next year, potentially 2 years, or maybe even for the rest of your career at this point. We got to talk about how do we set up at home to protect our spine, our posture, our health, and decrease the symptoms like pain and headaches and things that come with it, because there's been a huge increase in those problems that we've seen, not only in our existing patients, but in new patients coming in, and they're aware of it. They're saying, Doc, since COVID, my pain is up. I've had headaches. My posture is degrading. So people know this. It's not a shocker to people.
Right. Now, I guess let's start with what are the benefits of a stand-up desk? How could that help patients?
Right. Well, the number one thing is, and this goes back to studies like biomechanical studies on disc load, right? So but in the spine, we have the bones. Between the bones, we have these fibrocartilaginous things called the discs, and that's probably the most sensitive area of the spine, that when they get damaged, they break down, they degenerate, and they cause, this series of problems like disc herniations and severe back pain. And so depending on our position, like bad posture increases disc load, right? Sitting increases disc load. So we have these different...
Now, even sitting increases disc load, but even if you're sitting perfectly, it's still a
much
massive
higher disc
increase
load
on the disc
than standing.
Yeah,
correct. And so we know that standing has a decreased disc load to the spine compared to sitting, right? So all other factors being equal, if you want to reduce the load to your discs, stand, right? So we know just that alone is worth getting that stand-up desk to reduce that pressure and the compression on your discs, if this is something that you're doing 40 hours a week.
But the reality too, though, is that even if, I talked about sitting perfectly, but we could sit perfectly for 5 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
But now spread that over a day, a week, months, and years. That sitting posture is usually very rarely going to stay in a perfect position. What normally happens is, as the day progresses, we get maybe more tired from not moving very much. So now we start to lean back on the chair, head moves forward. We have that, what we call that forward head posture. All the stress starts to build up on the ligaments, the muscles, the discs, the tissues, and things start to break down. So the key thing is about sitting is that we very rarely are able to sit perfectly all day.
And we still probably wouldn't want to either, in theory, right? Because we've told people over and over, yes, you'd want to sit perfectly, but then every 30 minutes get up and take a break.
Yeah.
Because as you're getting to that threshold of fatigue, you need to get up, take a break, and then reset. And if you don't reset, you sit there, develop this bad posture, and now you could be sitting there for 2, 3, 4 hours uninterrupted in a bad posture.
Right.
And that's where the problems really occur. It's the extended periods of time with lack of motion in a bad posture. So even 4 hours sitting with perfect posture is still not great. It's better for disc load, but we're still lacking motion to the spine, right? Yeah. And so I think that's a huge advantage of the stand-up desk is try standing still for 4 hours and not moving in a stand-up desk at your computer. I've done it. I've spent days working stand-up desks for doing conferences and stuff. I have to move all day long. After 15, 20 minutes, I'm moving my legs. I'm kind of marching in place. You need to move, and standing like that, you're going to get tired, and your brain's going to cue you to move more. So I think in a stand-up desk, you're going to have a lot more low-grade gradual movement throughout the day than you would sitting. Sitting, you can get comfortable, slouch, and spend 4 hours. Standing, it's just not going to happen.
But I think we also have to touch on the brain benefits of a stand-up desk.
Yes.
Now, sometimes we have the slides in the office, but it basically says that 90% of the stimulation of the brain is by the movement of the spine.
Yeah.
So if we're standing, we are, like you mentioned, there's natural movement that will occur.
Yeah.
But that stimulation then basically stimulates the brain in terms of, okay, there's activity, I have to kind of keep going. So a side effect of standing or moving is now your brain is going to be more aware and basically better to respond. So basically you're going to be smarter
and you're less fatigued.
And less fatigued. So more energy and more acutely aware of what's going on. So you're going to be more focused and better able to do the work that's at hand.
And then I think also, we talk about taking breaks. So yes, you are gradually moving more, like you said, all day long, just kind of swaying. We talk about lifting a leg because it also reduces disc load even more. So if you've got think about the equivalent of a shoebox or a yoga block, perfect. Put a yoga block under one foot, you raise one foot so one knee is bent slightly. Now you've decreased disc load even more. But if I'm standing, I'm way more likely to go take that break every hour, go get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, go walk up and down the stairs. Versus if I'm tired, lethargic, sitting at the desk, I'm like, I don't want to move, it's too much work. It's a very different mindset to go take those breaks and move more when I'm standing versus finding the energy if you're tired and sort of falling asleep from the sitting position. So that's another even slight advantage is you're way more likely to take those set breaks throughout the day as well.
Right. And the other key thing is, and we talked about energy, but also if we're sitting in that bad posture, the amount of energy our body has to use to basically hold things together.
Way more.
So now you're basically using energy in a not a very effective manner.
Yeah.
So now again, your energy will just crash by the end of the day.
Yeah.
So all of this to say, a stand-up desk will definitely better for your overall energy, better in decreasing your pain levels, better for your posture, better for your focus and for your brain. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to this stand-up desk.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you want to go ahead and get one, so basically let's go over how do we actually use this stand-up desk on, let's say if you want to call it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, you can get, for one, I would say if people have the opportunity to is buy a sit-stand desk. So that's even better. So if you do want to take a break from sitting, you could have a desk that moves up and down. And a number of times people have come into the office, I'm sure you get it all the time too, you're bringing the desk up because the desks we use in our office are sit-stand and people are like, those are so cool, that is just amazing.
And a little plug for Costco is that these are definitely the best, the cheapest, and the best looking desks from Costco. So these are about 450 bucks Canadian from, I know they had them in the Costco kind of warehouse. I know a patient just got one the other day, and I know that you could still get them online. Yeah. So that is definitely the best bang for your buck. So we want to plug Costco for that.
So if everybody wants the exact link, or you can email us, or we can hopefully put it somehow into the YouTube link underneath so that people can find it.
And also IKEA has, again, some good great alternatives. And I know sometimes for some companies, they're required to basically buy only from their suppliers. And sometimes those desks could range from $2,000 to $5,000 for a sit-to-stand desk. That's not the reality of what that's out there, right? So you could get something that's very economical and and very good use as well.
And I think IKEA makes some like ones that are risers to be on top of a sitting desk. So if you have like a decent sitting desk or something at home that works as a sitting desk, you could buy probably $100 riser from IKEA that now turns it into a standing desk, right? So number one, it's the options of how you could do that. Sit to stand is an ideal. Now, let's just say, you don't have the ability to buy a new desk, right? You're stuck with what you have. So, you start looking at home, what are some of the surfaces that you could use for a sit-to-stand desk? Because the reality is, in a perfect world, we're getting that surface for a stand-up desk at about 40 inches, depending on your height, 42. Really tall person would be 45. So, things that range or close to that height at home would be like a bar top, countertop, kitchen island, something that's raised a little bit higher, is a great surface for you to modify at home and use as a stand-up desk.
Now, when we talk about that and that height, we still would like if you're working especially at a screen or computer, we still want the screen to be as close to eye level as possible. So that means that you would need to raise that screen, whether it's with shoe boxes or something like that, and then getting an external keyboard and mouse so that you could still kind of work at kind of a normal, let's say, postural level, but have your eyesight right into that screen.
Right, because what Dr. Dan's referring to is the majority of people who have been shifted from home or on a lot of times laptop computer that work has provided them. You're not sitting at a good desktop, and you think about the difference from a desktop is separate keyboard, separate screen, right? You can modify the height of the screen always so that your eyes, when you're looking straight ahead, should meet the halfway point of the screen, and you have a separate keyboard. So with a laptop, it's impossible. If the screen is at your eye level, you have to reach far with your arms to get to the keyboard. So you're going to run into upper neck pain, shoulder fatigue from holding your arms up all day. Well, if you have your arms relaxed to your side on the countertop, and you don't have an external screen, now you're forced to drive your head forward, bend your head down, and put strain to the upper cervical muscles and to the suboccipital area to look at your screen all day. So if you're using a laptop, it's almost mandatory or crucial that you either get an external keyboard, or two, get an external screen. And that even could be the TV at home if you could set up so where you could see a TV as an external screen, but you need to have them as separate entities if you want to be able to maintain that neutral posture that you're referring to.
Okay. Yeah. So I think overall, I think it's definitely a great thing to get, from A to Z. Definitely, like we talked about, decreases pressure and stress onto your spine, better for the brain, better for the whole body, and definitely helps the momentum of you just moving more, right? We talked a lot about this on our podcast, is movement is so key and critical for your overall health and wellness. So hopefully today's podcast helps you maybe understand a little bit more of the reality of getting a sit-to-stand desk, and hopefully that could help you in the long run. So again, if you have any questions, concerns, you can give us a call here at the office, 204-474-1159.
And one more thing is if you're an existing patient, or even if you're not, but existing patients, have a spouse or someone take a picture of your work setup at home. One, we could give you, recommendations based on what we see.
Perfect.
But two, the software that we use to measure your posture, we could take any picture, drop that into the software, and do an ergonomic assessment as well. So, if someone wants to see, am I a good ergonomic position, we can actually assess the pictures that, a spouse might take of you at home to give you a bit better information and really help you on your way.
That's perfect. So hopefully that helps you, and enjoy the rest of your healthy commute.